Hello gang, and welcome back to the 78 RPM channel. I am currently evaluating a large collection of Edison Diamond Discs for a client, and I keep coming across records that have this red star on the label. Now, if you're new to 78 RPM records, or in this case 80 RPM records, you may not know what the red star means. We'll tell you today on the 78 RPM channel. Hello, and welcome to the 78 RPM channel. Whether you're new to 78s or an advanced collector, this is your source for information, research, and music about 78 RPM records, cylinders, and radio transcriptions. There have been a lot of ideas put forth as to what the red star means on these Edison Diamond Discs, and while the answer is pretty simple, it's actually the opposite of what a lot of people think it is. Edison dealers were required to stock nearly every new Diamond Disc release each month. The agreement was that after a certain time, unsold discs could be returned for credit. However, there were exceptions. Beginning in 1923, there was a subset of Edison Diamond Discs known as General Group Discs that Edison dealers were not required to stock. Within this group, there were new artists whose popularity had not been ascertained, as well as types of music such as hot jazz, ethnic, and blues, which were viewed by Edison as having limited appeal. It should be noted that while Edison was undoubtedly a genius, Edison was not a musical genius. His affinity for sentimental parlor ballads, combined with his iron-fisted control over every record that was issued on his label, combined with the fact he really couldn't hear, led to some questionable music choices on the Edison label. Because the Red Star records were determined by Edison to be of iffy content, those records diverge from the normal, middle-of-the-road, boring schlock that you often find on Edison Diamond Discs. For instance, there are a lot of records that have the word blues in the title on Edison Diamond Discs. However, records that are actually honest-to-goodness blues, few and far between. Helen Baxter appeared under the pseudonym of Ellen Coleman. The fact that her discs were issued at all is surprising. However, the fact that they were tagged with the red star is not. If you were a dealer, the upside of the Red Star records is that you did not have to stock them if you didn't want to. Even the Edison company assumed they would be slow sellers. The downside is that they were considered special order discs, and special order discs could not be returned for credit. In addition, you have to remember that Edison discs were more expensive than the discs of the other companies. At this point, Edison discs were trotting along at about $1.35 each, whereas records by Columbia and Victor were in the 65 to 75% neighborhood. To top it off, Edison dealers were strictly prohibited from discounting records that were not selling in order to get rid of them. Every Edison Diamond Disc had to be sold at full price. As with many label anomalies, the Edison Red Star has its own series of variations. The most common variation involves the thickness of the print lines of the star itself, while there are also variations in color ranging from a dark red to a lighter orange. The most interesting variation, however, are the discs that appear at the very beginning of the Red Star series, as they are not red stars. Over the years, I've encountered about a half dozen discs which do not have printed red stars. Instead, they have purple ink stamp stars, like this one. Now, since the Red Star program didn't begin until 1923, and this disc was issued in 1921, we can hypothesize that certain old stock records were marked as non-returnable before they were sold to dealers. So, were these Edison Red Star discs indication that these were star tunes by the stars of the day? Kind of the opposite, really. What Edison did, however, was create a really interesting subset to his Diamond Disc series. If you find one of these discs in the wild, you should probably think about picking it up for a couple of reasons. First of all, because these discs generally sold fewer copies than the ones that did not contain red stars. Second, you may have found something that's not normally found on Edison Diamond Discs. Hot dance, hot jazz, or even blues. So there you go, 78 RPM, 80 RPM collectors. When you find an Edison Diamond Disc with a red star on it in the wild, at least you'll know why the star's there. Hey gang, I forgot to mention a couple of things in the video, and I wanted to pass them along to you because I want to make sure that I'm giving information, especially to new collectors, because Most collectors are grouchy old dudes like me. And once we're gone, there have to be younger people who are there to, heck, buy the records. And so I want to pass along a little bit of information to those people. And first of all, the Edison bulletin that I showed during that video, I've downloaded that from Antique Phonograph Monthly. All of the, at least a lot of the issues of Antique Phonograph Monthly are available on archive.org. And so just go to archive.org, type in Antique Phonograph Monthly, and you'll be able to download dozens and dozens of issues of a really good periodical with lots of information. And then second of all is I wanted to mention this book. It's the Copeland and Sherman Guide to Edison Records. And I know how ridiculously expensive books are. This one is not. It's not thick, but the amount of information in this book for an up-and-coming Edison collector, huge. This book will tell you everything you need to know about jumping into the world of collecting Edison records without feeling like you're in over your head. It just has so much amazingly good information in a very small amount of space. It is a must-have to a new collector who even thinks they might dabble in Edison records. So sorry about forgetting that, but when I'm going, I just kind of ramble. Could you tell? We'll see you next time on the 78 RPM channel.